What's up, YouTube? People confuse hemorrhaging of blood to be a natural female period. Again, we need to get into adopting a lunar calendar, male or female, regardless, and how it influences us in all ways, whether it's reproductive organs or whatever, reproductive function or whatever. So, it really should be only drops of blood, should not be a hemorrhaging of blood. Should technically only be like 3 to 4 drops of blood. But people are hemorrhaging blood and considering that a period. So of course it'd be unpleasant. And then again, hormones are an action of the minerals of the body. So if there's a mineral imbalance, it'll definitely be an unpleasant period, an unpleasant time. So people say they're hormonal, they're just more imbalanced than they would be going into something that is a very sensitive situation. So it shouldn't be a hemorrhaging of blood anyway, because I mean anything that's bleeding like that, of course is going to be unpleasant, regardless of what the species of the thing is. But you look at any other species, it's just drops. It's drops of blood. It's not a hemorrhaging. It's not a constant flow of blood. It should only be a few drops. But it has everything to do with the starch and the lining of the uterus being so dehydrated. And look, this bee just came and landed on my hand. Alright, so like the lining of the uterus is so dehydrated that from the starch, and the starch sitting in that area, in that intestinal region, pressing up against it, dehydrating the whole area. So the body has to compensate, pull moisture from other places. It's pulling moisture from the uterus, from the eyes, from other parts of the body to compensate to process this starch that is dehydrating everything it touches. So everything, like again, that's why starch, liquid starch, alcohol, that's why it destroys our eyes. That's why it destroys our posture. The fluids are all being drained and dehydrated, and it's just overcompensation throughout the body just to process the starch, because anything that is starch-based is not whole. The more starchy it is, the less whole it is, less complete it is genetically. So the body can only convert whole things into energy. So it has to take from the body to turn this thing whole, to process it correctly, to pass it. So you have a uterus that's so dehydrated, or a prostate that's so dehydrated, the lining of it, that the cells are now dehydrated, they're losing oxygen, the mucous membrane is now compromised in this whole region, and now the cells begin to die, become low oxygen, and the body just does what anything really does when there's a problem. They centralize the problem so it doesn't spread. So then you have cysts, tumors. It's all just a buildup of dead cells, dying cells, calcified mucus, plaquified mucus, because when mucus dries, we call it plaque. It's just calcified mucus. So that's just from the mucous membrane being constantly compromised from the substance we're putting in it, heavy starches. Especially now, you got females eating garbage throughout the whole pregnancy, the whole term, all trimesters. Certain stress in a certain trimester has everything to do with the personality quirks of a person. Like any imbalance, it affects the sexuality of the person. It affects everything. Timing with certain substances and certain stresses, because it is stress. It's just physical stress, which it comes from emotional and mental, and it creates more emotional and mental stress. So, because if the body's diseased, then the mind is diseased. So then the self is in an unpleasant situation, being in this toolbox, mind and body, that is just not at ease. It's not in order. So what we have here is an unnatural period, what they're calling a period. It's not a hemorrhaging. Not supposed to be a hemorrhaging of blood. The uterus and the prostate are more so portals into this density, into this layer of existence. So to have them confounded and compromised so much, and then to have a child, just let you know how compromised and confounded the child is going to be prone to being. Who knows what the male ate months or years before, how compromised his seed is, the prostate and all that. Same with the female, the density that's coming from the ether through male principle into female principle into its existence. So that chain of life there, so then you supposedly die or convert, transition after your transmission. Your body, the energy that is your body, converts, and the self transitions back into the ether, and then comes back into life. So if that whole chain is compromised, it's going to be compromised. Everything's going to be compromised. The period, the whole conception process, everything will be compromised. It will not be holistic. It'll be all fragmented and not run smoothly like a car. Again, it all comes down to this being a vehicle and everything being designed around it. Everything we're using has been designed around us. That's why we're using it. That's why it's in our existence. But this is the perfect ultimate machine, and everything it makes is all we need.